Welcome to The Backlash. I am your host, Rebecca Hargraves, joined as always by Mr. Dave Riley.
Hello.
After a short hiatus, we're back.
Oh, and I totally forgot. I need to get Power Chat up. I need to get my entropy stream up.
Yeah, I walk in and he's like, you just want to go live? I'm like, no. We need to do things before we go live. So let's see if we can still produce and run this show after a 2-week hiatus.
Probably not.
People hated the episode that we pre-recorded.
There's no way.
Hated it.
They hated it.
Oh, yeah.
Why did they hate it?
I don't know. Nobody wants to get married. Everybody thinks we don't understand the plight of men. Good thing Cameron was there. So we have plausible deniability.
I saw a lot of people criticizing Kim. They were like, Kim's projecting onto all other people, blah, blah, blah.
Whatever. I don't want to hear it.
I don't know.
You can find us on X at Real Backlash, our website, thebacklash.net. Support us on subscribestar.com/thebacklash, patreon.com/thebacklash. Send your super chats that will be read live at the end of the show to thebacklash.net/superchat or right here on my YouTube channel, which I'm sure is where you're watching this. Follow us on YouTube. That is at Real Backlash. Let's get those numbers up. Rumble.
We got to get these numbers up,
I know,
folks.
it's dismal. Rumble, Backlash Podcast, Instagram, Real.Backlash, TikTok, at Backlash Pod. Thank you so much for joining us today. A big thanks to Above Time Coffee Roasters. That is small batch. Dave, small batch coffee. Does you have it up? There we go. Small batch coffee. Dave is drinking some right now.
I am. Where is it?
He's drinking the blonde roast.
Oh, yeah. The blonde roast is really good. We're going to be doing the Italian roast. They've got what is that? Italian organic.
You know how I feel
roast.
about Italians. I will not be drinking that out of principle. Idaho Tallow, that is skincare without endocrine disruptors, and Antelope Hill, white positive publisher. Without further ado.
And ODGG Supply.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They're a new sponsor.
New sponsor.
Did you guys all do the White Wednesday stuff? I bought a shit ton of books
on Antelope Hill.
I went nuts with all the White Wednesday 15%, 20% off sales.
I totally did that.
I got Nuremberg, The Last Battle, Rise of the Reich, and there was a book about Jose Antonio Primo de Rivera that I bought.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to reading those. It'll be very good.
Looking forward to it. Today, without further ado, Dave.
I think we should do further ado. I think we should just keep him on the line for 10. No,
this poor guy. We have Kevin DeAnna, who is also James Kirkpatrick. You might have seen him on Twitter, and Gregory Hood. He's been around.
He's been around for a while.
The OG over here. A host of Identity Politics from American Renaissance, which is available on Rumble and Odyssey. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've been listening to your streams lately. You have such excellent insight into especially the current predicament of the movement, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
No, it's a real honor to be here, guys. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Oh, honored. He's honored to be here.
Oh, yeah.
I was
lying.
not.
And even as an Italian, you're right about what you said about Italians.
I know.
So, come the revolution. I've always said the definition of victory for me is very simple. It's the day I get deported for not belonging here. So, doing the right thing.
So wait, what are you? What is your ethnic background? Is it Irish?
German, Irish, and Italian? But being from North Jersey, the Italian in your blood just gets magnified by 4 times, just via kind of cultural osmosis.
Yes.
So both of you are a very unfortunate.
Same thing.
You're a very unfortunate European admixture. I would just
Catholic too. I heard you were Catholic, or at least baptized Catholic. So
he can talk about that.
We'll get into that. I'm sure we will.
First, let's talk a little bit about the doxing, because we were wasting it in the green room a little bit. Tell me about the day
that you were
doxed.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. I mean, the whole reason I had this stupid thing with all the different pen names and everything else, which in retrospect was idiotic, but there were things possible when I started, because I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, we're talking 2006.
Yeah.
There were things possible then that aren't possible now, because I was writing for Countercurrents, I was writing for Radix, I was doing all the kind of alt-right stuff while working in the conservative movement. My most respectable time in my professional career was also when I was reading Siege and writing insane stuff, on all these Vanguard sites. But you could do that then.
Yeah.
And you could do that because to some extent, if you were doing radical stuff, there was no danger of censorship. Amazon would sell any book you wanted. You could buy any book you wanted. You didn't really get the hit pieces, and nobody really cared if there was something. You didn't really worry about doxing, but that was because everything we were saying was just sort of screaming into the ether.
Yeah.
And it didn't I don't want to say it didn't matter because I think it paved the way for a lot of things, but it didn't matter the same way things matter now. And so when I got doxxed, it was years down the line. It was actually an ex-girlfriend from years before who had worked at the Daily Caller, who had worked at Breitbart. Her name was Katie McHugh. And she had kind of been, you remember how it was, there was sort of this tacit alliance between what we would now call the alt-light and the alt-right, and she was kind of in that space. This had been years after I had seen her or whatever, and she had gotten involved with a bunch of like various DC conservatives. Apparently things had gone south. And we had heard that there was this Atlantic article by Rosie Gray years before where she had like fed a bunch of info to, and it was going to dox all these people and say embarrassing things about all these different people. And we were all trying to, you know, kind of suppress it and at least like save who could be saved. That didn't work. And then a couple of years later, I got doxxed with everything I had. And the day I got doxxed, I was actually at the Vidar Castle that had happened. I was at the Vidar Castle. I was looking out. I was on like one of the battlements. I was looking out over Berkeley Springs. And best part, the day I got doxxed was also the day they announced COVID was a big deal and all the lockdowns and everything. So it was funny in the sense that this was the day that I had thought about. I mean, now, of course, I don't care and I feel embarrassed for ever fearing it. But this was the day that in some sense I had feared my entire professional career, and nobody cared. Nobody cared because everybody was talking like the world was coming to an end and that we were all going to die from the horrible disease or like kill each other over food and toilet paper or whatever else. And I was like, well, you know what? Like, even if it does go to hell, I'm sitting in a castle. So this is a pretty good place to be.
That is the truth of doxing. Greg Johnson famously said, you know, they can only dox you once.
Right.
Well,
then you're free.
You can, I don't know. I feel like I've been canceled at least 6 times. And it's funny because it's like the first... Well, then it didn't
work the first time.
Well, no, it did work the first. The first time when I got canceled in 2017 after Charlottesville, we like lost our radio stations. I had to resign in a bulletproof vest. It was like, you know, I was exiled to Kansas.
Okay, you didn't have to.
Well, it was 27. It was before the words cancel culture
different.
even existed.
It was different then.
Yeah,
it was very different then. I mean, people, you would see people. I mean, how many people in Charlottesville? Let's take that for an example. People who went to Charlottesville, a lot of them were guys who had only been involved for a few months. They had not seen a thing or two. They had not known anything before the alt-right. They thought that you could kind of do this sort of stuff without consequence. And there was this weird combination of things going on where you had simultaneously, we are the vanguard, we are radicals, we are at war with the system, we have no patience for normie conservatives who try to work in the conservative movement, you know, like me, like I did beforehand. But at the same time, the system's not going to break its own laws to do anything against us. We have a permit. The system's not going to break its permit and do anything weird to get us in trouble. They're not going to skew the law to get us in trouble years after the fact.
Right.
And what ended up happening is you had a lot of guys who were charged up, going in and confronted a system that has no compunction whatsoever about breaking its own rules. And think of how many people didn't just get fired, but committed suicide.
Oh, yeah.
Denounced by their parents. I mean, just the most insane personal circumstances you can possibly imagine. Something no leftist in this country will ever confront, no matter how radical they think they are. I mean, the most milquetoast college Republican who's a sophomore has faced more real opposition in his entire life than any communist will ever face in this country or in Europe for that matter.
Right. And people in Charlottesville, they had no real idea what they were getting into.
No idea. No idea.
I had no idea. I mean, the whole thing about how I got into the alt-right anyway was like, I had become aware of a lot of these issues, the Jewish question and all of that kind of stuff. Donald Trump red-pilled me on race. Like, you know, there was that one speech was like, they're coming across the border, they're selling drugs, they're rapists, and I assume some of them are very fine people or whatever it was. And I had literally never even thought about race until that moment.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
That is mind-bogglingly
I knew about the
retarded.
JQ, I knew about Jewish influence and all of this kind of stuff, but I had no earthly idea about the immigration problem or race. And so that happened, and it's like all of a sudden there's like R the Donald and, you know, this Daily Stormer website that seems to be making some kind of sense. And I had my radio show, and so I got this little Pepe pin, and I went down to Harrisburg to watch a Ben Shapiro speech, right? And somebody came up and was like, hey, I like your pin. And it turned out that person was like Richard Spencer's lawyer. And that's how I got in. And he's like, hey, you know, they're destroying our monuments. You should come down and cover it. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know,
life ruined.
Thinking like, you know, this is normal. I met this guy at like a conservative thing with Ben Shapiro, and like, this is where we're going. And that was not what happened. And it's like all of a sudden, it's like the fucking NSM shows up with swastika flags, and I'm like, what am I doing here again? What's going on?
Yeah.
Anyway.
But there were a lot of normal people there. I mean, this is something that only President Trump seems to have pointed this out, where a lot of people did just kind of show up, because for all of American history, it was taken for granted that if you had a permit, you could have whatever kind of demonstration you want. I think the single most important thing that shows the shift in American culture that's happened over the last 15 years was right after that rally. If you remember, the ACLU, which had initially defended the right of the Charlottesville protesters to have the Unite the Right demonstration, put out a picture where it had this like little blonde girl holding an American flag. It was just like sort of a clip art almost type picture. And it said like, this is the future we want. And everybody went nuts. All these leftists were saying, this is Nazi propaganda. You're the scum of the earth. You're responsible for all these things. And if you recall, soon afterward, the ACLU basically said, we're not going to defend free speech for far-right people anymore. Wow. We're going to change our entire policy. And this was an organization that until basically 2017 had bragged about the fact that it would even defend the rights of uniformed Nazis to march through Skokie, Illinois, or wherever it was. Now, free speech was something, and this is the biggest thing I wish people who are coming into this later would understand compared to where we were in like 2012, 2013. In 2012, 2013, we were so naive. We took it absolutely for granted that the internet would never be censored. We took it absolutely for granted that free speech was core to the American identity, and that was the one thing that we all had in common. How quickly we've lost free speech, and how quickly respectable opinion has declared that free speech, as we used to think of it not that long ago, 15 years ago, is now essentially a far-right fascist opinion, is the biggest single change in American culture that's happened recently. Bigger than AI, bigger than any of this stuff. Because 15 years ago, it didn't matter where you were. It would have been taken absolutely for granted that you could say whatever you want. You could have a demonstration of any kind you want as long as you had a permit. And nobody believes that anymore, except, of course, the so-called fascists.
Right. And I'm seeing a lot of newcomers to the movement that are like, we're not accomplishing anything. And I look back when I started my channel, I think it was 2015, like the lengths that we have gone in the last decade are astonishing to me. JQ it's a common talking point amongst normies now. Right. We've gone full circle in terms of censorship. I mean, people are getting reinstated left and right. Nick Fuentes was just on Piers Morgan. I'm like, what is happening right now? And so I need people to zoom out a little bit and see that there has been some progress in the discourse, and especially in normalizing some of these talking points that we're going to discuss today. Dave, were you going to say something?
No.
Oh.
I'm prepping other things.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry. My bad.
No, it's okay. No, I agree with everything that he said. I agree with everything you said. I have no idea what you said because I'm over here doing other things, but yes.
One of the things that I find very encouraging amongst alt-right, if we're even using that term anymore, and the dissident right is I think we're all coming to the conclusion that democracy is not really working in the way that we grew up as Americans thinking that it would. So, but I'm still seeing some people on the reservation on this one. So if democracy is fundamentally incapable of producing anything but mediocrity and decay, and I think we can all agree on that, why do so many people on the right still wasting time trying to reform, trying to save it, instead of just openly calling for its abolition, like the conclusion that most of us have come to at this point?
I think there are a couple reasons for that. First of all, the conservative movement systematically trains people who come in to think only in a certain way. And I think the most harmful defense of conservatism is that we value the conservative tradition, we value the American conservative tradition precisely because it leads to individualism, because it leads to classical liberalism, because it leads to a form of right-wing thought that's different from the evil continental system that has executive power and old-fashioned reactionary social values and this kind of stuff. It's fundamentally true that America is at its core a liberal nation, and that we don't really have a counter-enlightenment or true right-wing reactionary tradition that's indigenous to this country. I mean, you kind of have to go looking for it if you're looking for something to ground your thought in. That's one. Two, of course, if you go outside those boundaries and you're working in the conservative movement in any systematic way, you're just going to get fired. I mean, there are certain lines you don't cross. And it's not just a question of, oh, don't criticize Israel. Oh, don't criticize immigration too often. Oh, don't talk about race. I mean, if you start saying things like, you know, maybe the framers got a couple things wrong when it came to the Constitution. I mean, that alone, you're gone.
Yeah.
That's a kind of blasphemy. And conservatives, I often say, you know, are there any real progressives? Because what I always say is everybody's a blood and soil nationalist for the people they actually like. And a lot of these so-called progressives are really just nationalists for other people. But I reluctantly have to concede that perhaps the only real progressives are white American conservatives, because they're the only ones who really, truly, honestly seem to believe in civic nationalism, in the idea that the Constitution and certain liberal principles are enough to bind a nation together. And that if we just educate people enough, if we just have enough Spanish language constitutions that we hand over to people who cross the border, eventually this is all going to work out. And oftentimes maybe this is mixed in with some sort of evangelical impulse to convert the newcomers to whatever denomination of Christianity you think is going to cut it. The truth, of course, is that the way democracy works in this country and in Europe is it has almost nothing to do with the will of people. And this is, I guess, the final point when we talk about democracy, having to define our terms. True democracy, in the sense of the people get what they want, might actually work for us. I mean, poll after poll shows that most people want illegal immigrants gone. But an organized minority always defeats an unorganized majority. And the way democracy actually works in the Western world is it's the judicial branch, it's the bureaucracy, it's the NGOs, it's the taxpayer-funded organizations, especially when it comes to refugee resettlement, that call the shots. And public opinion and the will of the people, if such a thing can even be considered legitimate, given that a lot of times it's just conditioned by the media, doesn't really have a big impact. Most of the important decisions that have shaped our country over the last 60, 70 years had no public input whatsoever. I mean, think of what happened in California. People always say, what happened to California? Why didn't they save themselves? They did save themselves. They voted for a referendum that would cut all aid to illegal immigration. And one judge threw it out. And that doomed the state. And there's no solution within the system to prevent that. And so when we talk about democracy, we have to frame it in a way where it's not just, I think most Americans are probably not ready for like, oh, let's get rid of democracy. But I think what we need to say is that the way people say our democracy, what they really mean is their democracy. It has nothing to do with the will of the people. And there's no actual way to have any kind of an impact on any really important issue. What we need is a system where you have a government that can actually govern, where you have somebody who actually represents the sovereign will of the people, who can carry out the sort of fundamental duties that need to define the nation. Right now, we have a system that I think is slowly moving toward the rule of the absolute worst, where the more sociopathic, the more hypocritical, and the more crassly cynical you are, the more power you accumulate. And that's just not a system worth defending.
There is a silver lining there, though, because the people are being primed for authoritarianism, for fascism, which we could use to our benefit in future.
I mean, it's possible.
It is the age of Caesarism is going to come. I mean, Spengler talked about this a long time ago. Yaki talked about this a long time ago. I think even Trump himself, I mean, I know people, maybe it's because I'm old and I remember how bad things used to be that perhaps I'm a bit gentler on Trump than many would be. But I think Trump is a preparatory step to what's coming. And think of some of the things that he himself has said in terms of we're going to give rebates to citizens with money we get from other countries, either through tariffs or whatever else. We're going to get rid of the income tax. We're going to use federal troops to suppress crime in all of these cities. We're going to have monuments, and we're going to have a vision of American history that inspires pride in our country and all of these sorts of things. And none of these things actually happen because Congress, of course, is not capable of passing legislation at this point, regardless of who's in charge. The judiciary is just going to rule everything he wants to do unconstitutional, and the bureaucracy doesn't obey him. And so, as Peter Brimelow predicted back in 2015, President Trump is sort of like King Kong on the top of the Empire State Building, just kind of like screaming into the night. but unable to really do anything as he's surrounded by all these planes like shooting at him. And we're all saying, well, Trump, why aren't you stepping up? Why aren't you crossing the Rubicon? Why aren't you doing any of these things? He probably can't. He doesn't have the power. But what he's showing, and this is the one thing we have to give him absolute credit for, President Trump's historic role was to expose the enemy for what they are. And he has also exposed that the system is fundamentally not capable of reforming itself. And so this is just something we have to go through. It's going to suck. It's going to be frustrating. And a lot of people are going to be really mad and think that President Trump is a failure. But I don't think, and this is not meant as an insult to him, I don't think he's a failure so much as he is impotent. He is unable to do the things that need to be done to save the country. And even though he may quote Napoleon, he who saves his country violates no law, he's not Napoleon. And he doesn't have the kind of resources to just declare himself emperor and solve all our problems. But in the long run, I don't think there's a way out except through strong executive leadership.
He could be doing so much more, at least to bring the JQ into public consciousness. I mean, he's Israel's dog.
Well, I mean, I don't even think it's a matter of like the JQ thing. I mean, like, you know, when it comes to the, like, we all get that, like, you know, Zog is captured, the presidency, the Congress, blah, blah, blah.
Don't act like that's trite.
Well, I mean, I guess it is for me. But I guess like the question is, it's on these other issues where it's like, we would agree with Stephen Hammer, the Hebrew Hammer, Stephen Miller. Wow. Like we would agree with Stephen Miller about like deportations and, you know, getting rid of people. But like, here it is, you've got Zionist guy in charge of deportations. And what are we doing? What are we doing at this point? Like I saw a video over the weekend of like ICE driving over somebody's foot and like they broke their foot and they're there like lying on the sidewalk screaming. It's fucking brutal. And it's like, why are we doing this? Like, are we, we're just like sticking our finger in like the left's eye and begging them to hit us back. And then we're like not doing anything.
Because of optics.
Because of optics? Yeah. The optics on this thing sucks.
I don't know. I mean,
I want mass deportations. I think most Americans want deportations. We voted for that. That was what the whole Trump election was, but we're not deporting anybody. And not only are we not deporting people, what we are doing in this like ham-fisted way is like enraging the left.
Yes,
and then we're not backing it up with anything. They're going to come into power in 28 and fucking wipe us out.
They're doing it deliberately because it creates the veneer of brutality in terms of deportation without the substance, which is much more difficult to execute. I mean, everything that goes to the White House is so carefully curated for public consumption. Like, this is no accident that they're doing this. They don't care that they're pissing off the left. I mean, but this is pissing us off because there is no substance to it.
Right.
How many people would they have to deport on a daily basis for it to really even make a dent?
Good question. Do you happen to...
We figured this out.
Fundamentally, the biggest problem, I think it goes back to I think the Trump administration is probably pushing these sorts of optics to generate more self-deportations. This is a point Jared Taylor made over the weekend. And you are seeing that to some extent. Depends whether you trust the figures or not. The biggest thing he obviously needs to get credit for is just stopping illegal immigration cold. But of course, that doesn't really do anything. It stops the bleeding. But the one good thing about that is then no one can ever say ever again that we need amnesty in order to stop illegal immigration. He disproved that within the first week. The biggest problem is this. It goes back to what you were saying at the beginning of the show. Are we fundamentally trying to save the system from itself, or are we trying to break it? Because if you're trying to save the system from itself, let's say the number one way you're going to stop migration and the way you're going to get rid of these people is you have to go after the jobs magnet, and then they're going to leave, which means not just a huge remittance tax, which of course, again, that was in the big, beautiful bill, and it was the congressional Republicans who got rid of it. So on the White House, but that's on the Republican Party, certainly. But you would need to go after the businesses. And what happens every time they go after the illegals at the farms? What happens they go after the illegals at the resorts? What happens when they go after all these businesses that are now dependent on a source of illegal labor where they pay them nothing? And then we, the taxpayers, subsidize the additional expenditures of these workers. The businesses go nuts. Costs are going to go up if you actually go after the businesses. And if costs go up, that means food prices are going to go up. That means inflation is going to go up in the short term. We're in this situation now where it's sort of like dealing with a drug addict or an alcoholic, where you say, oh, just quit this thing. But if they just quit for 24 hours, they may die because the withdrawal is so severe. The problem is not so much in terms of creating a problem. Obviously, it's the refugee resettlement groups and the NGOs and everything else. But the thing that scares me is not the Antifa. The thing that scares me are not the mobs of left-wing protesters, not even the people who are opposing ICE. The people who scare me, the people who I'm not quite sure how we get around, is the business lobby. And it's not really driven by ideology. It's not driven by, some deep-seated like elite manipulation. It's just
pure profit.
Cheap labor. It's cheap labor, and they can dump the externalities on the taxpayer. And if you break that lobby, which we are going to have to break, there are going to be major short-term consequences, which will probably have a negative electoral impact. And the other thing, of course, is how are you going to get the American right, which has defined itself since the Cold War as the great defenders of free market capitalism, as the people who are saying, we are going to crush big business because it's a threat to the national interest. That's collectivist. That's socialist. You can't do that. I mean, you're basically asking the American right to fundamentally rethink the premises that it was founded on after the Cold War, which unfortunately is what we're going to have to do. And I think the alt-right was basically step one in that effort.
Right. And we're going through those growing pains right now. I mean, we had Konstantin von Hofmeister on the other day, and he was talking about basically erecting a Marxist-style socialism within Western nations. I mean, we're seeing myriad economic policies being proposed on the right that are not traditionally conservative, but are based on homogenous populations and racial cohesion within a given nation. And that's really the conversation that we need to be having.
But also economic populism. And I've seen
100%.
I've seen you talking about. So if you could elaborate on that a little bit, that'd be great. Because I saw I retweeted you on that like a week or two ago, I think. And I agree. So lay it out for us.
Yeah. I mean, the people who come out for Trump, but do not come out for Republicans tend to be white working class voters, tend to be lower middle class white voters. And there is no outreach whatsoever from the Republican Party to these people. And I say this as somebody who worked in the conservative movement for a long time, and of course had some dealings with the RNC and things like that. Your average RNC functionary hates these people. Hates these people with a fiery passion, loves to see them suffer. There are no PACs doing outreach to these people. There are no organizations funded by the taxpayers to get these people out to vote. The only reason these people are even coming out is because of the personal charisma of Trump. And when he's gone, they don't come out to vote, which is why the midterms is shaping up to be such a disaster for the GOP. But it's more than just charisma, and it's more than just, oh, we're gonna symbolically stick it to the libs or something like that. You have to give them something in material terms. I mean, I put this on the show the other day. Like, what exactly have you gotten concretely from voting for Trump or supporting the right? Did you get a job? Did you get a taxpayer grant? Did you get a set aside for something? Because any leftist you talk to can tell you specific things that they got when their coalition wins. We don't get anything. And ultimately, we have to start having solutions to these problems. The only things that were even moderately proposed was basically what? Getting rid of the tax on overtime, getting rid of the tax on tips. And getting rid of the tax on overtime was pretty awesome to, working class guys in the trades who I was working in the trades at the time. So I was talking to the guys about that, and they all thought that was great. But even that's like pretty thin stuff compared to what the left promises to its people,
right?
Where you're creating entire industries that provide jobs to these people. I mean, the only thing that I can think of that the right has done in the last 25, 30 years in terms of we are setting up an entire bureaucracy to give jobs to our guys is basically ICE.
Right. And it's, it's one of these things too, where I see like all the ICE propaganda and I love it. I mean, the DHS.gov, what is somebody at the door?
Oh, it's okay. It's delivery guy.
Delivery guy. Okay. Yeah. The DHS.gov account.
You can talk. Bring him in.
Bring him in. We'll put him on.
Like, how can the right wing win your vote, Mr. Delivery Guy? Because you're the swing voters that we need right now.
Can I see your green card?
Yeah, really.
You know what I mean? Like Mr. Amazon employee. Where was I going with that?
ICE.
Damn it. ICE.
ICE.
Oh my God. The
DHS.
propaganda is so good. It's like they're posting Moon Man memes. They're posting, these like edits of like, chopped and screwed little Dark Age. And it's like, dude, I want to apply for ICE at this point. But at the same time, can we trust Kristi Noem? I don't think so. Like, I don't, you see what I mean? So it's one of these things where it's like, okay. And, just throwing it out there, there's like a lot of stuff, a lot of government contracts that are out there that our guys should be building businesses to like suck that money up, whether it's paper shredding, confidential document disposal, book disposal from like libraries or whatever, selling toilet paper to schools. But like that entire sector of like government contractors, they're all Democrats. They're all leftists. And we need our people to, be optical and then like make a company and start getting these contracts for sure. Because that's how a lot of these leftists, I think, fund their activism and all of their stuff.
Yeah. Some people need to be hiding their power level. Not us, though.
Well,
we can't.
No, not us. I mean, that's not our role in this. But, for one metric, because people say, well, how do we know when we're winning? How do we know when we're losing? I'm kind of impatient of like the grand ideological critiques about this, that, and the other thing, just because, and maybe this is just being cynical and old, but I've seen this for a while. And I don't think that critiquing the system by itself doesn't get you anything. Like if you go, oh, look, you fell for it again. It's like, okay, but you don't like actually get an award at the end of it. You don't win. You just lose.
Well, if you visit our friends,
treat us all the same time. What I would consider right, but yeah, you get the actual ribbon, but then you still get thrown in prison with all the like the normie Republicans you hate so much when they take power again. But the big metric that I would be looking at is how many of our guys are now getting jobs full time and being paid by the taxpayers. Right now, that number, it may even be zero. I mean, in terms of people who are getting paid to do right-wing political activism by the state, because I promise you, there are lots of left-wingers who are doing that. I mean, most of the new government programs that are laid out are basically just an excuse to pay leftists to do the kinds of things that the Democrats want, that progressives want. And we don't think in these terms because, again, what is one of the fundamental premises of the American conservative movement? We need limited government. We need to cut expenditures. We actually need to like triple taxes and use that money to like pay right wingers to be doing community organizing for our side. Like that's actually the kind of mindset that we need. Like we are entering an age now where the sort of grand ideological critiques about the role of government or what the Constitution says or any of these sorts of things, these things do not matter. And they haven't mattered for a very long time. And I think even discussion about these sorts of things are going to go with the boomers. Right now, we are entering an age where it's us versus them. It is all identity politics. It always has been identity politics. It's just been made overt now. And it's just going to be a question of who can get enough state power where the state is funding your side and who can use the law as a weapon against the other side.
Right.
Because on the right, we talk about power, but on the left, they actually use power. And we have to keep in the back of our mind that, just being ideologically correct doesn't get you anything. Like sometimes you just lose. I mean, I always think of what happened to the Eastern Christians with the rise of Islam, or what happened at fall of Constantinople, where they're carrying around, the icons saying, oh, God's going to come and save us or whatever else. Like he's not. And if he didn't save them, he's not going to save us. I mean, at some point we actually have to have state power and use it.
Right. But I mean, I think that kind of system and structure is built on identity. And what we're dealing with right now are the growing pains of developing a group identity. Right. I had a bunch of, this is not going at all as I anticipated. So my line of questioning is all screwed up. But
sorry, did I screw it all up here?
No, I probably did. I did.
It's Dave. I've heard you talk a lot about Evola and his warrior-ascetic or the knight that he describes. Do you think that this is still realizable in this age of, we're physically weak. We don't have any kind of group ideal. There's remote work. Everything's being done by drone, by AI. Do you think that it's even possible for us to develop this, for men to develop this? And do you think it's a necessary step to achieve state power in the way that you were describing?
Under the current system, perhaps not. I think that the heroic ideal is antithetical to democracy. I think we all agree on that. Democracy necessarily selects for basically the worst. But if you look at the types of groups that are forming now, especially the active clubs, the groups of young men that are forming all across the country, many of whom may even call themselves apolitical. But what are they doing? They're lifting weights, they're fighting, they're doing rituals, they may be dedicated to this particular religious tradition or that religious tradition. They're forming actual communities IRL, and most of them are not online. This is not something that the left is tracking because they can't really track it. And some of this bleeds over into political activism, but the real payoff is kind of down the line. And obviously I'm in one of these types of groups, although certainly our guys wouldn't call it political. These sorts of things are a necessary first step, because the biggest problem with young men right now is the system is rigged against them. They know the system is rigged against them, but they don't really have the sorts of things that older people would have taken for granted. They don't have a real community. They don't have groups of friends. They don't have any prospects of owning property. They don't have any prospects, in a lot of cases, of getting married or having a family. And shaming them and just screaming at them is just not going to be enough. So what is the first thing you do? What is the first thing that young men have always done throughout history? You form a Mannerbund. You find a group of guys who are young and have nothing to lose, and you get in good shape. And from there, it's not so much like, oh, we're beating the crap out of each other and lifting weights. Like, yeah, that is good. That is step one. But ultimately, it's about getting together and figuring out, okay, as a group, how do we obtain property? How do we make money? How do we build political power? How do we start actually building power in the real world? How do we make the system work for us? Because we're not doing this because we're committed to the Republican Party or to Donald Trump or to America or any of these sorts of things, but to these real flesh and blood people that I see around me. And as these people get older, and I know this because I've seen it in my own life, as these people get older, it's no longer a bunch of 20-something guys. It becomes a group of 30, 40, 50-year-old people, and now there are wives, and now there are children, and now it's a generational thing. And now you're actually building real culture. Now it's a real thing. And fundamentally, it is a hard path to choose. But I think this is where, I mean, obviously you can insert whatever jokes about Evola and schizo posting and everything else, all of which are correct, by the way. But there's still a value in a school of thought that teaches you to choose the hardest road because it's more authentic and it provides what he would have called more fruits in this life. Like, you're actually going to get something out of it. I mean, we started off talking about doxing. I think of how much time I wasted trying to be careful.
Yeah.
Trying to like maneuver within the conservative movement. And we did some stuff. I mean, I could tell stories about it, and some things were worth doing. But in the long run, wouldn't it have been better off to just go all out from day one? Wouldn't it have been better off if, like, from age 21, I was just writing as Kevin DeAnna at everything I did? And wouldn't that have accomplished a lot more? I think that you can only walk one path. You can only walk one road. And I think the value of somebody like Evola, and I'm not saying you need to even read Evola necessarily if you're not into that kind of thing, but I think the value in thinking of yourself as, I am doing these sorts of political actions not because I'm trying to be clever or show how much smarter I am than other people, but I am trying to uphold a certain ideal. And I almost don't care about what consequences come my way. If you have that kind of mindset, I've actually found that the real world consequences are better for you. You try to be careful and you try to live like a bourgeois and you try to be all calculating and whatever else, because given the current system, you can only hide your power level so much. And even if you're just a normal guy who only talks about sports in the office, eventually HR is going to sniff around and they're going to get you. And then where are you?
Exactly. That's exactly true.
No, I was just even going to say, something that you mentioned there, it's actually something I've been going back and forth with fucking Joel Barry about over the past couple of 24, 48 hours. Because, he made this post. He's like, I'm in my 30s. I own a home. I'm happily married to a beautiful woman. And we have 6 children. I won at life. Ask me anything. And I'm like, yeah, well, you fucking did that because you sold your country out, asshole. Most men in their 20s and 30s don't own homes. They're being squeezed out of their jobs by immigrants. They are not married because feminist women suck. These problems are systemic. And it's like, in response to this, I'm getting inundated with boomers that are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You're such a crybaby, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I got the same thing that Joel Barry has. And I did it while being doxxed, while getting fired, while opposing Zionism. I got a house, I got cars, I got kids. I'm not bragging about it. I don't want to, the point is, I don't know what the point is. The point is, fuck these people. And I want, back to this economic populism thing, we need to take the boomers' money. We need to take these people's money away from them and divert it. Sorry. I have not had enough Above Time Coffee Roasters coffee yet.
But that was
You never have enough time.
you know?
This is 100% true. And this entire mindset just needs to be killed. I mean, look, when people say things like, oh, I wanted life. I've got a wife and kids and homes and everything else. Like, all right, man, I've got like 3 homes. Does that make me better than you? Like, do I win because I'm like a right-wing radical and I've succeeded more than like you have according to your own standards, Joel Berry? And you're not a great man because you're married with kids. Like, that's supposed to be the standard thing that you do to keep the civilization going. And if most people can't do it, that's not on them. That's because the leadership has failed. That's because the society has failed. And there is this, again, a very poisonous mindset within the American right where we say to talk about victimhood, to talk about oppression, to talk about the reality of power somehow makes you a leftist. I mean, David French was talking about this when Tucker Carlson was still on Fox News. He was saying this poisonous narrative of white victimhood. Well, guess what? Whites really are being turned into victims, and young white men especially. And this is not something that can be ignored. And especially if you are in politics, like, what is the purpose of politics? You are trying to respond to the grievances of your coalition. And if your response to your coalition is you are actually not even allowed to articulate those grievances, everything is just about succeeding materially or economically in whatever means possible, and you're all just individuals, well, I would argue that you're not even in a political movement. You're not engaged in politics at all, because you're telling your own people that there's nothing they can do, there's no reason to support you, and that our principles are basically our principles are that we are not allowed to defend our interests.
Right.
And that's just death for a political movement. It is, economic populism is not about vengeance against certain constituencies, although maybe in some cases it is and should be, but fundamentally that's not what it's about. It's a recognition that there is such a thing as society, and that any economic system, because guess what? Like, we don't live in a libertarian society, and there is not some separation between the state and the economy. Any kind of economic system where the government is involved is going to necessarily give incentives to certain kind of market outcomes. And right now, those market outcomes are home values are out of control. A lot of them are being bought up by finance capital or by foreigners. Mm-hmm. This is especially bad in New York City, where essentially it's just become a playground for international investors. People who actually live there can't buy homes.
I saw a statistic.
You have to respond to this.
With Miami, 50% of the homes in Miami are owned by foreign people.
Yeah, 50% right. In Seattle, of new ownership in Seattle.
That's crazy.
By the Chinese specifically.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and let's back up for a second here. This is a point that you were talking about before, talking about how racial homogeneity allows certain policies and the sorts of things that people actually have a stake in the society. I would say the biggest problem with being white in America today is you don't actually have a stake in the success of American society. If America wins a war, if America becomes more powerful, if America's GDP goes up, what difference does that make to me or to you or to anybody watching this? But I'll say this, you'll see somebody like Hassan Piker when he goes to China and he's saying, oh, isn't it amazing how they have all these sorts of policies? Isn't it amazing that they can do all these things? Well, what would a China-style policy look like in the United States? It'd be an incredibly restrictive immigration policy. You'd have no homeless people in the street. You'd have crime strictly punished. You would have oligarchs essentially being subordinated to the national interest. Would all of these left socialists be in favor of these sorts of policies within the United States of America? Because they actually sound pretty right-wing to me. And I'm not one of these people who says I'm beyond left and right. I don't think anybody says that unless you're actually on the far right. I'm on the right. I've always been on the right. But I think we need to think about what it means to be on the right. And being on the right does not mean individualism. It does not mean capitalism. It means upholding a certain natural hierarchy where your own people are at the top in terms of your own empathy and in terms of your own preference. And the tragic thing about politics right now is I think there's actually not much debate in terms of what is actually good for your people. Because all of a sudden, when people are talking about the groups that they actually care about, everybody becomes a right-wing nationalist. And by the way, everybody becomes a kind of economic populist from a right-wing perspective, where you start going after the oligarchs, not because you believe in equality or something like that, but because they're undermining the national interest and they're degrading the larger society for short-term profits. And that's just societal death.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's pull up that Joel Berry tweet again, because I think this is revealing of the Jewish psyche.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
This
Okay.
thread?
So he's saying, I've accomplished all of these things. Does he say anything about principle, about truth, about America, about nationalism? No, he's saying
He's an
that
evangelical, isn't he?
Yeah,
Or is
he's
he
an
actually just-
evangelical Zionist,
He's
probably
evangelical.
prosperity gospel type.
yeah,
you know.
absolutely. So he's not talking about truth, and that's what all of these great thinkers really circle back to, like transcending your material interests to advocate for a larger truth. And if we're not doing that as a movement, what are we even doing here?
Right. And not only that, but it's like we've got all these like conservatives or whatever, and they're trying to set you up to be like, we're going to fight to the death for capitalism.
Like, why?
And it's like, no,
Right,
I'm not
right,
going to
right.
die for capitalism.
Absolutely
I'm
not.
not going to die for, I will die for me, for my family, for my people, for Jesus Christ. Like I will die for those
that's it,
things.
Yeah. End of list.
But that's about it.
Capitalism doesn't give a shit about white identity or upholding the white nuclear family. If people get divorced and there's family
people, it's
destruction,
not even just white people. I mean, if
Yeah,
you
but
put
that's
capitalism
what I
into
care
Sri
about, though.
Lanka, the Sri Lankans would get fucked
No,
by
I
it
know,
because
I know.
capitalism is inherently predatory.
but that is the
Noam
problem, right?
Chomsky has a quote about this, of all people. Noam Chomsky said that capitalism is actually, in the long run, anti-racist because racism is a human characteristic.
That's true, though.
It is in race. If you are saying that there is any kind of an interest other than material, you have ceded being capitalist. But I'd say it's even deeper than that. It's not. I don't concede the ground that if you had a white society that would be less economically prosperous than what we have now. I don't concede that in the slightest. I think we would actually be more prosperous. But the question is, what kind of prosperity? Because right now we have a system where the weaker individual people are, the more they become addicted to drugs, junk food, pornography, short-term stimulants to try to distract from how their jobs are breaking their spirits or their bodies or whatever else, societal breakdown, family breakdown, being unable to pass on property from one generation to another. All of those things are market opportunities.
Yes.
And in one sense, you can be like, yeah, guess what? If you legalize gambling, say, I guess in some level, the GDP goes up. But then you look at the real costs of that, and maybe the problem is that our measurement is just wrong. We're looking at this the wrong way. If you select one measure, and this seems to be what conservatives always do, which is just look at GDP, you're neglecting the larger picture of what it is that you're trying to accomplish with government, or the very point of having a country. And this is the biggest point of all. If you tell people, and I'm going to go back to where we started with the doxing or whatever else. And this is something everybody in this movement has had a problem with, because if you get doxed, it's not going to be the leftists 9 times out of 10. It's going to be by people on your own side. Look at the people that young Republican doxing thing that happened only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Gavin,
The reason, if you tell people in your movement that the highest good is to make as much money as possible, why wouldn't you sell people out? Why wouldn't you try to get elected to Congress, talk about how much you love immigration, and try to be a corporate lobbyist someday? Why wouldn't you go out there and say that actually the purpose of the American military is to fight for democracy in Afghanistan, and then bring all these people in here and get paid by a refugee resettlement group for doing so, all while bragging about how much more moral and Christian you are than everybody else? Like, why wouldn't you do these things? When you say that material self-interest and to hell with everybody else, because somehow taking care of your material interests just automatically leads to the best social outcomes in everything imaginable, even though that's not true, how are you not going to get the worst possible people? Because I will say this about the left, and I say this having gone to plenty of like anarchist stuff and infiltrated conferences and doing all this kind of stuff in my early 20s, they at least appeal to a certain kind of idealism. They at least demand the whole man. They at least say, like, you are joining a cause. You are doing this for something larger than yourself. And that's what young people want. And instead, we're taking young people who understand that their country is being taken away from them, and we're saying, you know what the highest goal is? Make some money, move to a gated community, put up your walls, and try to isolate yourself from the larger collapse and say, screw you, I got mine. What kind of people are you going to end up with if that's what your movement's all about?
Yeah,
that's absolutely true. I mean, I think that we should probably be developing some metrics for spiritual prosperity of the white man.
Well, I mean, I think you can see it in church attendance. You can see it in birth rates. you know.
But people are still
Yeah.
depressed. I mean, we don't have that social cohesion.
That's a
that
big
we
one
had.
right there. I mean, self-reported
depression.
rates of depression, mental illness, all these
Sure.
sorts of things. I mean, we have measurements. It's just we don't use them.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody cares. And it's, you know, back to this thing about democracy, because I was thinking about this too. Sorry, we're just we've got to get to the paganism stuff at some point, but
We're going to have to rename
Here we
the
go.
stream. It's okay. That's all right.
but because I was thinking about this,
Walk into this one.
and this idea of like democracy, being responsive to like the will of the people. I remember going to a lecture maybe a year ago, where it's like all the statistics of what people think about like the federal agencies, what people think about the government. Trust in government is at like 12%. People like 20% of people trust the police. You know, like it's just abysmally low. And with democracy, it's this idea that, oh, well, it's the will of the people, we the people, blah, blah, blah. And they don't give a shit about the people. They don't care about the fact that I pulled this up earlier. Where is it? This new Polymarket thing. We are not sponsored by Polymarket. Don't gamble with them. This is an anti-endorsement. It's an anti-commercial, but the numbers are interesting. The prediction market stuff is interesting. But like, look at these odds. 80% that the Democrat Party is going to come in and sweep in 2026. And that's because nobody in the Republican establishment is fucking listening to anybody.
Nope.
They are not listening to anyone. They're not listening to the disaffected white people. They're not listening to the Hispanic voters that also want mass deportations. They're not listening to people like, hey, you know, the housing costs are a little too high. And
It's because they're cutthroat capitalists with no racial allegiance. That's why.
Yeah, true.
And that's the real problem.
I think one of the biggest things that people need to understand, and this is kind of a subtle point, and it may sound a bit counterintuitive, but this is in my experience, and I'd like to get your take on it afterward. I don't think Republican politicians are actually that interested in staying in office. Occasionally you'll hear people say things like, well, these people will say anything to get elected. We would be much better off if that were true. That's not true.
Interesting.
What they are trying to, if you are on the right, especially if you are from a red state, a deep red state like Oklahoma, if you look at the senator there who's been campaigning for more illegal immigration, you are a second string elite. You are on the right because you had to be on the right to get elected, but you don't actually like the people you're around. You don't actually want to represent their interests. You don't even believe they have legitimate interests. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to get elected, serve some time, cozy up to the powerful, get out, get a lucrative job in the private sector, move on from there. Look at Ben Sasse. I mean, this is a guy who, if you recall, during President Trump's first term, was always giving these sanctimonious speeches about democracy and the republic and how evil Trump is and all the rest of it. And of course, he was turned into a media hero for this, became the president of a university, I believe, in Florida, made a bunch of money from that. Now he's got a new sinecure at AEI. This is how you do it. And it's not even... like, I think cutthroat capitalism gives them too much credit, because being a cutthroat capitalist at least requires a certain modicum of intelligence, and you might actually like produce something along the line. Like, people, you can say what you will about the robber barons, but we had like railroads and steel and things like that. I mean, you're talking about people who fundamentally have never created anything. They're just saying words. They're just manipulating people and then getting various positions where you're lobbying the government to get the people that you work for more money. And the best part is you're doing all this while you're saying your biggest issue is limited government. This is what the American right is now.
Oh, it's awful. And there was also something talking about this. I think we talked about the young Republicans that got doxxed. We did a couple of segments on it. We released a statement from somebody who was in that group. And then I think, I'm not sure if you've seen this, the very first person has come forward that was in that group. There's a profile piece that was released earlier this week or last week in the New York Times, how a Kansas Republican became part of a racist anti-Semitic group chat. William Hendricks wanted a life in politics. He found it with the Young Republicans. It's an interesting read. William Hendricks, very interesting guy. He was working in the Young Republicans. He was working for, what's his name? Chris Kobach, as I think his communications manager.
Did he apologize?
No, he did not apologize.
Excellent.
And as a matter of fact, like, he kind of gets into the culture of it. They admit that right wing, left wing doesn't matter. People say the N-word. They say the N-word with an A at the end. because that's how young kids talk. It's just how young kids talk. And you could have opened up any kind of group chat, left wing, right wing, and it would have had this kind of language in it. But it's an interesting piece. And the thing about it that really blows me away, and like, if I could say one thing to Republicans, it's like, these young kids, like I think he's like 21, 22. He's very young. He effectively gave his entire life from 2016 to today to politics. He was loyal to the Republican Party. And in return, the Republican Party gave him nothing. They disavowed him. They kicked him under the bus. They were not loyal back. And, this is an issue that I really wish people would talk about or something, but
that's an excellent point.
We need a party. We need a party that is loyal to us.
They never retrieve our wounded. That's the biggest thing. I can't tell you, I'm like choking on my own rage here. I can't tell you when I was doing, conservative organizing on college campuses and stuff like that, how many good kids would put themselves out there, would just get absolutely and this is like 2012, 2010, just get absolutely hammered from the administration, from the media. Their parents would be screaming at them, all sorts of things, and they would just get nothing from the right. They would get nothing from the conservative movement. And I think that's gotten a little better in recent years, but not much. And it fundamentally comes down to what we've been talking about, where if you just have material self-interest and short-term cashing out as like somehow your moral good, what do you expect? Or to talk about even the first doxing that we talked about, if you assume that you are going to lose in the long run and you sort of take it for granted, then why wouldn't you leverage whatever position you have within the American right or the conservative movement to sell out friends to the media for short-term profits and connections and to basically get a boost to another thing? I mean, think of how many people within the media today started off as conservatives, started off getting jobs paid for by conservative donors, but then at some point would write some article or do some expose where it's like, oh, all my coworkers are racist, all my coworkers are this, that, and the other thing. And then they move on to a job in the real media at the Daily Beast or CNN or any of these types of places. I mean, I think there's a very strong minority of people who come into the conservative movement deliberately as this is step one in a career strategy where I'm going to be a big media figure and I need to get to a certain point, and then I am going to consciously, with full intent, sell out everybody around me because that's how I'm going to make my name.
Before you say something, the JQ used to be a litmus test to weed these people out and to find greater truth seekers, but now it has become so normalized, with Candace Owens and with all of these people, with Tucker even discussing it, that it's no longer a good
well, now we have
strategy
the
to bring it.
We have the TQ.
Which one is this?
The trans question.
Oh, that's less important to me.
Well, so if you got somebody that's correct on the JQ, but they're wrong on the TQ, they're not our guy, right? Because this whole thing with Peter Thiel.
Who is this person?
I know, right? Who's like, the trans issues of a Trojan horse, as far as I'm concerned.
There are a few. Peter Thiel. Well, maybe he's not right on the JQ or whatever, but you see what I mean? Like, these people are kind of allowing this stuff to percolate up or whatever, but they're dead wrong on the trans question, the transhuman. And that brings me to...
Are you talking about transhumanism?
Question. Okay, I thought you were saying transgender.
Well, yeah, but the transgenderism is the precursor to transhumanism, right? So it starts with the biology that you can biologically change yourself from a man to a woman, and then it evolves into you can turn yourself from man to machine.
I don't know if I agree with that linear
they
thinking.
necessarily follow one another.
But I think that the transgender thing is predominantly a way for gay people to normalize pedophilia, and that's really what
that's
what
also
that is
true.
About. But transhumanism, I would agree with you if that's the TQ that you're talking about, because we can't trust Curtis Yarvin, we can't trust Peter Thiel. Woo!
But it was so funny too, because like when you were mentioning this whole thing, I'm like thinking in my mind of one particular tranny, Sarah Ashton Cirillo. Right? This was the transgender male to female that decided to run for governor or something of Nevada as a Republican. And all the Republicans were like, here's my unicorn tranny that's a conservative tranny.
No, impossible.
And then goes on to like burn all of his campaign consultants, everybody in the Republican Party. He works with Proud Boys. They're fascists, blah, blah, blah. Burns everyone to the ground, and then fucking goes to Ukraine, where it serves as the official mouthpiece of the Ukrainian army. Like, have you guys followed the rise and fall of Sarah Ashton Cirillo or whatever? Oh my God.
At some point, he just kind of cut his hair and then just started looking like a normal guy again.
Yeah.
Isn't that how like the whole story ended?
Yes.
Which is actually the funniest thing possible. Like, you just kind of cut your hair and be like, so anyway, and then
just
go about your
walk it
business.
off. We've been going for about an hour. I didn't ask any of the questions
59
that I really wanted
minutes.
to. So let's end on this. What is the greatest threat to individual meaning, to spiritual meaning in 2025? Do you think it's technology, ideology, or personal isolation, which I think is a larger threat than people are realizing?
It's a good question. I would say that the biggest thing is, I think, the loss of transcendence. I mean, occasionally it's easy to get impatient with people who say like, oh, just go to church or something like that. And that's like the cure all to what ails you. But I mean, it is a good first step for almost everybody, because right now you're in a situation where all the sources of meaning, and I think this is something that especially older Americans may not understand, all the sources of meaning that every other generation could have taken completely for granted, regardless of the physical struggles they endured, regardless of the social circumstances or reduced technological circumstances that they had to deal with, they could at least take for granted that there was such a thing as family, that there was such a thing as automatic loyalties to certain things, that they probably, at least in 99% of cases, had some sort of a faith tradition, even if they didn't really believe in it, or like went to it only for like weddings or funerals or something like that, gave some sort of meaning to the inevitable disappointments and tragedies of life. Now you're in a situation where you simultaneously have this kind of moral hysteria over racism or fascism or whatever else, but at the same time, and this is what's so weird about it, you also have this sort of like winking irony where actually nothing is taken too seriously, where even something like a child's funeral, I'm sure you've seen something like this, becomes a reason to start celebrating like pop culture, or have like a pop culture theme for like a wedding or what used to be like a significant family event. And so we're simultaneously like cast into this world where everybody's freaking out all the time, but also there's nothing permanent, there's nothing of any real moral importance, and you sort of get the sense that nothing we do matters. And I don't really, regardless of one's faith tradition, I mean, I think that what Evola would say is that unless you have some sort of identity rooted in tradition, in something that you actually believe is eternal and unchanging, you're always just going to be running around from one thing to another. And I think that's sort of like the paradox of modern life. Like the more we've found out about the way the universe works, about the way science works, we know more in some ways than our ancestors, but we've like forgotten the most important truths of all, which is that if you don't have your mind focused on the eternal, you're actually not going to be very happy in the here and now.
No, true.
That's absolutely
That
true.
is so
What a
true.
great answer.
We have one question. This is what happens when you like take a week off. All of a sudden, everybody you lose their attention and then they go off. We've got one question for you. If you've got any more questions, please send them in to thebacklash.net/super chat. Queensboro Bridge Enjoyer sent $10. Great discussion on democracy and the right. Almost none of the current political system defenders acknowledge that Thomas Jefferson concluded blacks and Indians were incompatible with white society and government. So how is democracy supposed to work now?
Right. That's an excellent point. This gets to one of the things when we talk about, democracy. All right, let's define our terms. I did a deep dive into some of the stuff Jefferson said a couple of days ago. Jefferson, and I didn't even know this until a couple of days ago. We've all heard the quote about how Jefferson said it's inevitable that blacks are going to be freed from slavery, but it's also inevitable that they can't live under the same government. Well, notice in the state of Virginia, Jefferson even said, some people say, why not just incorporate blacks into the political system and make them citizens? And he says, but that's a terrible idea for all these historical reasons and everything else, but also because there are inherent natural differences. So even Thomas Jefferson, all men are created equal, denied the blank slate. Even he did not believe that everybody was like truly equal in terms of how they were born or had equal capabilities. When you talk about democracy, when you're talking about the rule of the demos, we're not talking about the rule of people, a random collection of individuals. We're talking about the rule of a people. Because if we're talking about a collective interest, we're talking about a national self-interest, which most people who defend democracy will still acknowledge exists. There still has to be a distinction between us and them. Even a John Rawls or somebody like that would acknowledge that. But we don't even have a way to define who's us and who's them anymore. I think the most important question, political question right now, is something that a lot of people have been on the mainstream right are confronting, and Donald Trump has brought into the forefront with his comments on Somalis and immigration. What is an American? Who is an American? What makes an American? Because if there are no limits to that definition, if literally anyone can be an American, then it's very difficult to justify caring about America one way or the other. And certainly, it's very difficult to care about belonging to a democracy where you are one vote among countless billions, all of whom are going to follow their own collective racial interests, even if you don't follow yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a great answer.
Because we don't have any more super chats for him, I have a question, which is, have you heard about what's going on down in Eagle, Idaho? We've got a bar down there, the Old State Saloon,
I have.
which recently has offered for anyone that reports an illegal alien that becomes a successful deportation, they will get 1 month of free beer, which is great. I think that this is a great promotion that they've got going on. I'm curious, what are your thoughts? There's some talk, actually from one of our sponsors, Atlas Bullion, the idea of perhaps paying illegal immigrants money to self-deport. Do you think this is a good idea, proactive? Because, if the administration, if DHS isn't able to carry out these deportations in a timely manner, as we've been talking about,
Which they aren't, yeah.
Should we be seeing and hoping that we see more private citizens doing stuff like this? Is this a good idea?
Yes, but private citizens should not be the ones having to take on these sacrifices themselves. I mean, one of the things that we could easily be doing is you start paying citizens a kind of bounty for illegals that get deported. If you see where businesses are hiring illegals and you report them and it turns out that they are illegals and they get deported, you get a financial reward. I mean, you do something like that, you actually give people an interest in saving their country, a financial interest. You're going to see these deportations step up quite a bit. And I also think you're going to see the self-deportation step up quite a bit. I mean, let's not forget, why do illegal immigrants exist, like, as a thing in this country? Yeah, there's a racial, I mean, there are certain people, right? And there are also certain racial agendas and everything else. But the people who are actually employing them are not thinking about the grand strategic questions. They're thinking about money. Mm-hmm. And if you change the economic calculation, a lot of this problem just goes away. Another thing which I'd like to see is these refugee resettlement organizations, many of which are run through the churches. I would like to see, and this is something Steve Saylor proposed, I think like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, make them liable for the actions of the people they bring into this country. Because when the Lutherans or the Catholics or whoever else, and a lot of these times it's not even the Lutherans and the Catholics, it's just like a group calling itself that, right? But I mean, it's just a nonprofit. It has nothing to do with any particular religion. When these people bring somebody in who then commits a crime, who then hurts ordinary Americans, I say that these people are liable. And if they're not liable under current law, then we need to have a new law that makes them liable. And that's going to make a lot of this problem go away. We need to change the economic incentives here. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
This is just going to go on forever.
But it does fall on the citizen at this point. So I think that if we could see more of this, I mean, how many people are independently wealthy at this point that should be throwing money at our podcast or doing stuff like this?
Of course, you can send checks to P.O. Box 853, Post Falls, Idaho 83876.
I don't know if you've fallen into the shameless self-promotion pattern that we have, but it is truly...
I've got to give a big shout out to Matt.
Cover his name?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, I'll say Matt. I mean, there's how many Matts are there in this country? But thank you for the $400 donation.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I just want to call you James Kirkpatrick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to try to change that to Kevin DeAnna. We'll see how that goes. I know, like, the blue check on Twitter, that might like nuke the whole thing.
So
You'll lose it for like 3 days.
It's so ingrained
we'll see what
in me.
happens.
It feels wrong to call you Kevin, but thank you so much for joining us. That was just a lovely conversation. Your insights are so valuable to the movement, and thank you for the decades of work.
Yes.
Of work that you have done.
It was a real honor to be on here, and anything I can do for you guys, you just let me know.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I'm at American Renaissance, so amran.com is where all my writing is, and every new episode of Identity Politics is posted there, and then you can find it on Rumble and Odyssey.
Fantastic. Please
And his
subscribe to
Twitter.
him on Twitter.
Yes, be there, James K. for now, but we'll see if I can change that over to Kevin DeAnna pretty soon.
Please find him on Rumble, on Twitter. Check out his pod. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. That was great.
That was
very
great.
high energy.
We're going to have to
Love
change
it.
the name of the title of the show because
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't ask any of the questions about paganism.
No. Well,
That's okay.
We can have him back.
It's nice to get off track though, because that means that the conversation is energized and organic.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We've got some super chats that we've got to read, some old super chats. And we've also got some sponsors that we need to talk about a little bit more in depth. And one of them is Atlas Bullion. They are currently potentially in discussions for this deportation thing, which could be very cool. But if you just want to protect your own financial sovereignty, your wealth that you've worked hard for from inflation, you need to be thinking about buying precious metals, gold and silver from atlasbullion.com/backlash. They've got programs where you can buy automatically. $55 a month is their lowest plan for silver, $200 a month for gold. You can get some fractional stuff, start building your stack, start preserving your wealth. They've even got options for kids for your IRA. So please visit atlasbullion.com/backlash. We've also got to give a big shout out to Antelope Hill Publishing, who is fighting to keep history alive against the regime of anti-white censorship. Their varied catalog includes the newly updated and expanded third edition of Dr. Kevin MacDonald's Culture of Critique, the essential modern text on Jewish identity, Dr. Ricardo Duchesne's magnum opus, Greatness and Ruin, the definitive scholarly examination of European exceptionalism, as well as books by Kerry Bolton, Paul Kersey, and Josh Neal. Antelope Hill recently brought David Irving's iconic Nuremberg: The Last Battle back into print and have numerous translations of historical works from eras such as Fascist Italy, National Socialist Germany, and Civil War Spain, previously unavailable in English. Hold on. Need to wet the whistle a little bit. There are also plenty of books on contemporary issues such as transgenderism, the opioid crisis, and Christian nationalism, as well as history books, novels, and children's books. So whatever your interest is, you're bound to find books that you'll like at Antelope Hill, all professionally published with sleek, modern cover art. Help us and help our people by checking out companies that share our values and fight for our cause. Visit antelopehillpublishing.com. And we will come back for the other sponsors in just a bit. We've got some super chats from while we were away. While I was away, I was in, where is this? I've got to pull it up. I was in, where was I? Chicago.
Do you know what I told everybody?
I was in Chicago with Vince.
That
we were gay?
No, yes, but I was telling everybody that you guys were just frequenting all the local bathhouses in Chicago.
Oh, very, very close. We were hanging out over at the Menorah. Did you see this? No. Oh, even Milo got on it. He's like, "Oh, we're throwing black gang signs now," and I'm just like, "You're gay." Anyway, so yeah, we had a lot of fun in Chicago. We should have done some more.
I'm
content.
sorry that you guys did not like the episode.
Apparently, they didn't.
I
Some
thought it was
did.
going to be a big banger. You know, I never re-listen.
I re-listened to that one,
but I re-listened to that one, and I messaged the boys, and I was like, I think this was our finest work. And then I go to the comments, and it's like, "Fuck you, bitch!" Oh my god!
So on December 3rd, Aggie Jet Pilot sent $25 regarding getting bashed up last year. It was actually a white guy driving the truck that hit me. I was on a bike. Dave, I know you ride too, so be careful. 20 plus years of street riding before I got tagged.
Oh, man.
Still limping a year later, probably for a long while. Yeah,
Sorry to hear that, buddy.
You got to be careful on the motorcycles.
Yeah, well, don't do it.
Well, but I love it. There's nothing like driving a motorcycle around Hayden Lake.
Yes, I've been
the curvy roads.
on a motorcycle before. It's really, really
it's exhilarating.
fun.
It's freeing. It's nice.
Really fun. Really dangerous.
Yeah. That's why
Really
I go on the back roads, the country roads. Reinhardt sent $10.
Hi.
Sex or premarital abstinence should not be used for leverage. Agree. It should be used as a filter to find a man with temperance, restraint, patience, and commitment. A man that is going to just use you won't stick around if he knows you're serious about it.
I understand
true.
this from a very good moral male perspective. But the fact of the matter is that people use all of the power available to them to get what they want, and that is just human nature. And raw female sexual power might be the single most potent motivator for men. And you're asking women, like, just don't use this thing. Just don't use it. I'm telling you, we cannot. It's impossible.
You cannot not?
That we must. It is our biological imperative to leverage sexual value.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
No
Like, I would have an issue if that's how the dynamic in my relationship was.
Yeah, I'm telling you that women just can't. They can't not. Why do I keep saying it like that? They must.
I don't know. Disavow.
I want us to live in the reality.
Well,
the sexual reality that we have in this world. Like, okay, women are just going to stop using all of their sexual power and return to chastity. Women have to be forced to do that. And if you guys aren't going to force us to do that, are you going to? Are you going to subjugate us? I mean, you should.
I don't even know what we're talking about right
Women
now.
need to be subjugated because I think we lack agency. If that's not going to happen, then, we're not just going to voluntarily choose not to use the greatest power that is in our possession to get what we want. That's insane. That conveys to me a lack of understanding about human nature and about women.
Yeah, I think that, like, if your woman is, like, using sex as a weapon against you and, like, withholding sex to get you to, like,
that's different.
That's what I thought we were talking about.
No. I never advocated for a woman to withhold sex as an abuse tactic against men. No.
Okay, because that's what I thought you were talking about.
But women that are withholding sex while still allowing sexual energy to enter their relationship within the context of abstinence and using that to get a man to commit, I think that is the natural state of affairs, even in Victorian England.
Yeah, so both men and women should resist having premarital sex.
Yeah, totally.
And that goes both ways.
Yeah.
But the point is that if either side of the thing is attempting to get you to have sex outside of marriage,
no, that's not the point.
Then they are not going to respect the marriage itself.
I don't think that's what he's saying. What I said on the show is that women should use all the power that's available to them to achieve their end game, which should be being in a monogamous long-term marriage with a man. Now, if you're a woman and you're in the dating game, you shouldn't be having sex, but using your sexual prowess to achieve the end stage of long-term monogamy is just part of the game. And I understand what Reinhardt is saying. Should we be doing it? No. But saying that women are not going to do that conveys a misunderstanding of gender dynamics.
Are we talking about, like, putting on makeup and looking pretty?
Yeah, I'm talking about, like
what are we talking about?
Cleavage and flirtation.
No, cleavage is banned.
No.
Long sleeves, skirts.
No.
Wear a veil at church.
No.
Yes.
Veil at church,
We finally got my wife to throw out all her pants.
What?
Yeah. Hey, she wears skirts
I wore
now all
pants
the time.
to Dave's church, and people were looking at me like I was fucking naked.
Yeah, it's because you are.
I didn't even think about it because I'm a pants Catholic.
This is one of those things where it's like, you've just gotta like introduce women into that society, right? And then just over time, they will realize that everyone else is wearing skirts, and then they'll
wear skirts. Yeah.
And then they'll change. Peer
That's
pressure.
totally true. I would never wear pants to your church.
Again.
Ever again. Like, under any circumstance. It was a total oversight. I didn't even think about it. I will never do it again. That being said, I think if you're a man and you're in the modern dating market, this is something that you have to accept about women, and you have to use it to your advantage. And it has to be kind of a hunt with sexual undertones. Like, I don't understand how you can even date with
the point of getting married, you want to have sex with the person.
Then we can't deny that men and women are using their sexuality to achieve their game. Men are using their sexuality to try to get women to have premarital sex, and women are using their sexuality to try to stop men from having premarital sex, but get them to engage in a long-term monogamous relationship. Like, and not understanding that it's going to do men a disservice.
Okay,
in the
now
dating
that you
market.
put it that way, I see what you're saying. And yeah, I think it should
None of this stands for withholding sex within a marriage.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were talking about. And I'm like, bro, that's no bueno.
That's the thing, ladies. If you are able to use your sexuality to get a man to marry you, then what you have to do is to continue to have sex with him. Like, 80 to 90% of the times that he wants to have sex. I think that's reasonable.
The whole point of marriage is you're signing over your sexual organs to the partner.
To the partner.
So
Yeah.
it's like not mine anymore. It's anyway.
And that's why in the backlash, we don't believe in marital rape.
Glamdring sent $5. For the record, I like the pre-recorded show. White people do need to get married and have kids. Yes, of course, there are difficulties, but girls aren't all unsalvageable.
Yeah, of course. Of course
True.
they're not.
There are good girls out there.
Yes, there are.
They're at church. You got to find them there. Tomahawk sent $10. Great show. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glamdring sent $5. Also, in addition to supporting the backlash, people should throw a couple of bucks at Crystal, the based Cinnabon chick.
Yeah, did you see that shit?
We want to normalize and encourage white people throwing off the shackles.
It was so funny. It's a good one for those of you that haven't
Are these
watched.
not popping up on the main screen?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, they might not be. Hold on a second. Yeah. Oh, they're not. There it is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, the logo's not even there. WTF, mate?
Hey.
No.
Oh.
Where'd it go?
I don't know, Dave.
Ah, there it is.
I like to rag on you for the production stuff, but if anybody, I couldn't even end the show. We were in some situation where I thought I might have to end the show on my own, and I was like, I don't even know what
Just
fucking.
unplug the computer. It would crash everything.
Okay, yeah,
Just
that's
FYI.
what I
In
would have
case
to
I
do.
ever quit and then just like go to my room or something.
You like
know?
rage quit.
What was that last one? Yeah, in support. Oh, yeah. So this chick was working at Cinnabon and was getting sexually harassed by like Somalians or something, and then eventually had enough of it and then started using some provocative language. And it was at that moment that the Somalians pulled their phone out and started to record to make it look like they were the victim. This is how it always goes. It was the same story with Shiloh Hendricks.
Yeah, exactly.
Same exact story. So, but yeah, man, like, be careful, and definitely don't use that kind of language for no reason. Absolutely not. Old Craig sent $10. Hey guys, thanks for your work. I'll be happy to come on the show and explain the truth about Bitcoin. It is good, but almost universally misunderstood. It will make good content, but might make crypto bros try to cancel you. Haha.
That's exactly what the audience wants.
Well, I have no idea who Old Craig is, though.
More
Like,
Dave Bitcoin talk.
I mean, Old Craig, if you maybe give us like a couple grand, maybe we'll have you on the show.
We're not above that.
We're not above that, okay? But if I'm going to have somebody on the show to talk about Bitcoin, I'm going to have like Marty Bent on the show, or somebody in the sphere, Eric Casson or something like that. Trust me, bro. Hussar sent $15. A little late for James on this, but I would like to see it made much more difficult to wire money to other countries and those who turn illegals in to get any houses and vehicles that they were given under Biden, plus a minimum bounty. Yeah, bounties would be sick. That'd be great. If we could start incentivizing people to help in this deportation effort, that would be very good. I think that I saw something last week about how Scott Bessent, our homosexual Treasury Secretary, was talking about ending remittances. Mm-hmm. Did I get that correct?
Yeah.
So I think that might be taken care of to a certain degree. But yeah. Did we get all of the super chats?
I don't know.
Donald Ductator sent $14. Congratulations to Dave for enforcing gender standards in clothing. Sorry, ladies, wearing pants is trans. True.
I don't know, man. I'm not there.
Based and true. You'll figure it out.
I don't ever want to be there.
You'll figure it out eventually.
No.
Skirts plus like the sundresses, the skirts, they make women look more pretty. There's more for men to imagine. Like when these women are like going around like half naked, it's like, I'm not even interested, because it's like, okay, well, that's what you got. Moving on. Whereas like a pretty woman wearing a dress that's modestly, you start to, I wonder,
I don't know. I'm a big advocate. We need more cleavage in society.
Less.
Look at the
Absolutely
paintings
not.
from like the 15th century. Queen Elizabeth was showing like near nipple level cleavage.
Bro.
It used to be a sign of chastity.
What?
Yeah.
What?
You couldn't show your ankles, but the amount of cleavage was just incredible. I don't know. I think the female form is beautiful. Now, where I will no camel toe, no camel toe. That's where I draw the let's not do any camel toe.
No
girls.
yoga pants. I
can't get
back
over
in
that.
St. Mary's when I used to live in Kansas, like women would be shunned for wearing yoga pants. Like out, like get out.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is the way that society should be. It's funny because it's like you go to a trad cat town. It's like you wear yoga pants and everybody looks at you funny. Whereas when the Catholics go out with like their 8 kids to Walmart, everyone looks at the Catholics like, oh, they can't keep it in their pants or whatever,
Yeah, I don't know.
It's funny. So I think that gets us all up on the super chats. We did have a very big gathering here in North Idaho. We had a massive Christmas party. Look at that.
See, look at this
I'm
picture.
so sorry about this picture.
I came into Dave's house. I didn't know anybody. And so I just sat where I was most comfortable, which is in the chair that I always sit. And I sit with my pile of food because I've been fasting all day. And Dave's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, it's the only place that I feel comfortable.
Come
and then
hang out.
He snapped this picture of me shoveling food into my face.
You look very surprised. But yeah, we had a little over 100 people come. So if you want to get involved with the network and the community that we're building, if you live up here in North Idaho, definitely reach out. info@thebacklash.net. Send us an email. We'll take you out for coffee, figure out if you're a Fed or not, and then maybe you'll get invited.
I don't know.
Maybe you'll get invited to next year's Christmas party. I don't know. But we will be doing some meetups soon.
I think we got a few more sponsors, eh?
We do.
Ew, why did I say
do.
that like a Canadian?
I don't know. But Above Time Coffee is absolutely fantastic. Small batch, hand roasted, to order. It's not sitting on shelves for months. It's not, they import the beans, they roast them themselves. It's very good. It's probably the best coffee that I've had.
It is really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I don't just ask his sponsors because they've taken a risk to sponsor us.
I mean,
their coffee's legit.
When we got the first package, it was all sealed up. They're all in bags. I could still smell the coffee coming out of the package. It was so strong and aromatic and amazing. They've also got coffee pot. Well, it looks like their French press is out of stock, but they got some T-shirts. They've got one of these little mocha pots if you want to make yourself some espresso. And I also think that they added this Pocono Perk espresso blend by popular demand. Everybody was asking them to make an espresso blend, so they finally got that. So visit abovetimecoffee.com. Pro-white coffee that tastes and is wonderful. I also got to give a big shout out to North Idaho Tallow Company. If you're sick and tired of skincare packed with chemicals you can't pronounce, North Idaho Tallow Company might be for you. They've got soaps, balms, and lip balm packed with nutrients that your body needs. No endocrine disruptors, no fillers, no fake fragrances. It's all natural. It's exactly what your body needs. And, I've been hearing a lot of good things from people that have been using this. They've got cracked, dry hands because of the winter time. This stuff may help with that.
Hey,
I can't tell you that it will heal you.
Want to hear how natural their tallow balm is?
Oh, and this stuff right here, the Three Kings.
That stuff smells amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So yesterday, I'm looking at my Great Pyrenees. I'm like, what does this? Oh no! What does this nigga have in his mouth? My Great Pyrenees. And
it's fine. We're good. I spilled some coffee on my computer. It gave me the jitters. It's so strong and powerful. Yeah, see, it's still going. All right, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
So I'm looking at my Great Pyrenees mouth, and I realize that he's trying to open my jar of tallow to suck the tallow bomb out of the jar because he's like, oh, these are natural. These are natural ingredients.
I think you could eat it, but you don't want to. You definitely don't want to eat the soap.
Don't eat the soap.
There's lye in it. Yeah. That's how they make it. But it is all natural. It's
oh,
very good.
Man. We will be back on Wednesday with our normally scheduled program.
Yes, we've got a lot to cover. There's been so much going on.
I am dying to get back into my car to finish this Nick Fuentes, Pierce Morgan live stream right now. When I just looked on YouTube, it was 130,000 people watching. I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
We're going to hit the New Year's hard. The new year.
Oh, yeah, we are.
We got some big things
to see what
in
else
store
is going
for
on
this year.
Yeah. I need to go through my bookmarks and see what we got going on. But yeah, there has been a lot going on. Oh, that's right. That's what the other thing I did. While I was in Chicago, I did an interview with like a former Israeli ambassador to America.
Who is this guy?
Gilad Katz.
Fed.
And it was really funny because Vince was sitting next to me. So we're like interviewing this like Israeli diplomat, trying to have this like serious conversation. And then Vince just grabs my phone and unmutes and goes, Israel did 9/11. It is so funny.
Where are they airing it?
It's on X. So if you go on X and you scroll back a little bit, I retweeted it. Where is it? It would have been right here.
Oh, man. Oh, it was a space?
Yeah, it was a space hosted by Michael Hittak. There's the guy that we were talking to, Gilad Katz. Bro. And he's everything, absolutely everything that you could possibly imagine an Israeli diplomat would be, you know, all the standard Hasbro talking points. And it was all so tired. And he just kept going back and repeating over and over. And then it's like you slightly disagree with him. He's like, well, you're an anti-Semite. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we can't really talk. Anyway, it was an interesting space.
You got to employ those Machiavellian tactics and be like, yeah, I sure am an anti-Semite.
And we had an interesting thing. By the way, why didn't anybody tell me to shave?
I told you repeatedly.
Why didn't anybody tell me to shave?
Oh, wait, no, I told you your beard looked good.
Yeah, all of you people were like, now I look good. Now I look clean. I got a haircut.
I don't know, it's a little
fade.
Jewy. You look a little Jewy.
I look like Rabbi Shmuley in this thing. Look at this. I've got like the Rabbi Shmuley beard going on. Anyway, Richard Spencer came over for Thanksgiving. It was very nice.
So
We're going to
cool.
have him on the show next year.
Oh, he can't do it this year?
Not this year, but next year. We'll get him on. We'll get him in studio. That way it'll be a nice vibe. But we do have some interesting guests coming up. Next week, we've got Sarah from DDG.
Sweet.
DD Geopolitics. She will be on the show. And then on the 22nd, I believe the 22nd of December, we're going to have Father James Maudsley joining us again, which will be very good. We'll talk about Christmas and some of the stuff. We haven't spoken to him since we got a new pope. So it'd be interesting to get his take on that. And then the 28th, I'm still working out. We will see. We might just make gingerbread houses and bullshit.
That would be better than the people that have canceled on me. You know, Adam Irving never messaged me back. Totally ghosted.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we should boycott his books. Even though I literally just bought a copy from Antelope Hill.
It's so rude. I was so pissed off.
Come on, people.
I know. You make a commitment, you show up.
Just show, and you know, if you don't want to, if you make the commitment, you want to come on the show, and then all of a sudden some asshole gives you a call and, hey, you shouldn't go on this show.
Then tell me that.
Well, then tell us that. Just, you know, give us a call. Be like, hey.
Sitting here with our dicks
thumb
out.
up our butt.
Yeah, so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be back with the normal paid programming, not paid programming. That was a Freudian slip because I want that money.
CIA sponsored
Yeah,
content.
I want that CIA money. We'll see you on a Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.